argon, heck, the air we're breathing is 1% argon. It's an inert gas. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless, and it's absolutely non-toxic, but the one thing it isn't is oxygen. Argon gas is used as a shielding gas in welding operations. As you're welding a joint, and it creates a molten pool of metal as you're welding a joint, then one of the big problems is that the oxygen in the air will oxidize the molten metal and cause the joint to fail. So basically what they do is they have a little shield that has a positive flow of argon gas surrounding the molten puddle so the oxygen can't interfere with the welding process. Very imaginative solution to a big problem in welding. So you have lines that go into to the welding equipment and spaces, and so if there's a leak in that line in a closed space over a period of time, it displaces all the oxygen. And the two guys who died were not assigned to that area. Here's the best guess I can make about that is that a lot of times in the shipyard you get an assignment by your foreman, and if you're lucky enough to complete it ahead of time, the foreman doesn't want to see you, and you'd better not be seen by some other foreman just standing out with nothing to do, because that invites disciplinary trouble. So a lot of times in a situation like that, basically if you've done your job and it's too late in the day to get another one, then you just beat it. You stay out of sight. And the guys had completed their job. They weren't assigned to work in that space, so I think they went down in there just to stay out of sight. Once they were down there with no oxygen, colorless, odorless, tasteless, there was nothing to warn them that there was anything wrong down there. They probably just felt drowsy and went to sleep. Never woke up. At the end of their shift, their foreman was mad because he went back and checked the time cards, and the whole crew had punched out, and there were these 2 cards still in the rack. And he says, "Those sons of bitches, they probably left the yard without even telling me." And he was, we heard, I don't know if it's true or not, from folks in the machinists union, that in fact he was in the process of writing them warnings for failure to punch out. Their bodies were discovered by second shift employees, sheet metal fitters from the iron workers unit. I knew one of the sheet metal fitters, Robert Cohen, pretty well. They opened that hatch and looked down, saw 2 guys lying at the bottom of the ladder, vertical ladder, going up to an overhead hatch. And Robin Cohen weighed maybe 130 pounds. She climbed down that ladder and picked up one of those guys and tried to carry him up the ladder to get him out, and she almost made it. But she lost consciousness and fell back down. She would have been killed, except that at that point they were starting to get people out of there. But I still remember that she went down and tried to save one of those guys, and she almost made it. 30-pound woman carrying a 200-pound guy up a vertical ladder with no oxygen. Those were not the first guys to get killed. NASCO had had fatal accidents sporadically, and they were not the last guys to get killed either. I think it was the first time that two had died at the same time. In light of what had happened the previous month, with the shipyard demonstration, wildcat strike, there was tremendous anger about NASCO, and it just fed into that climate. And God help you if you were injured on the job, because NASCO, I mean, they had to comply with workers' compensation law, but they would essentially, if you had a serious injury at NASCO had just declared war on that person. Their whole attitude was just get that guy off the books. He's dead weight on the company now. A lot of injuries, a lot of bad experiences coming out of industrial injuries. People had died before, and now this happened on top of the events in the previous month. And it just kind of hit like a bomb. One of the guys, I can't remember, was Beebe's family or King's family. I knew Robin Cullen, but I didn't know either of those guys. There was a funeral held at the Catholic Church out on University Avenue. Must have been 800 or 1,000 people attended that. I attended, I was fired at the time, like hundreds of people came from NASCO. You could see them, wearing their work clothes and their hard hats and so on. They had punched out at NASCO and actually driven out to East San Diego for that funeral. Everything possible was done to keep it dignified, not to have the funeral be a political event or something like that. It was really a remarkable